depth. Like I don't want to bore anyone. I think Maxim said we have a decent amount of viewers on, so I'm not going to cover everything like to the T or anything like that. But I do want to cover the general points of this talk, this whole kind of 15-minute session that I have here. I'm gonna be talking about essentially why builders are vital for blockchain, right? And kind of like also from my experience as a developer, as someone who's been building on chain, and like kind of the things I've seen, the things I've experienced, and like kind of that whole sort of ordeal there. Because I think PulseChain has a lot of builders, especially when you compare this to other chains. Like I don't know how many other chains there are that like have people actually kind of working for them, right? Because I will say there's other chains out there, of course, right? Some of them have programs where like builders will have to get paid to come over, right? And to actually make products over there. I think PulseChain has this kind of unique, special kind of essence around it where builders are attracted to PulseChain, right? It's almost like, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but it's almost like a cool new playground, right? So to speak. So first things first, though, I'm gonna do like a little introduction, like why builders are vital for blockchain. You guys can read like if you wanna read through some of the kind of the points here, but this is the main kind of point I want to drive home, right? It's like you have builders create, users adopt, ecosystem grows, value increases, right? So we saw the same thing happen with Hex and PulseChain and like that whole kind of emergence of like the blockchain itself, right? So we had builders like Richard created a product, right? Users adopted it, the ecosystem grew, and then there was a few other things, changes in Ethereum, blah blah blah. Long story short, the value of Hex increased, and then what had happened was after so many like users had adopted and the ecosystem had grown quite substantially, we needed a kind of a new home to put Hex, right? And that it was I'll say it's the same sort of cycle that I think we're seeing here with PulseChain, where we have Richard Hart, and even now that we have builders on PulseChain as well, but I'm kind of just talking in like the general scheme of things, right? But you had Richard kind of create PulseChain. A lot of people said, it's not going to happen. It's he abandoned the idea, I think, is things that I've heard as well. And then what did we see happen? We saw builders create, PulseChain get launched, users adopt it. I think we're in the process of the ecosystem growing, right? Especially even with the whole crypto ecosystem growing, right? And that's going to increase like value as a whole on chain. So this is the feedback loop that I kind of like. If there's one point to take away from the presentation is respect the builders on chain, and you don't have to use everyone's product, right? Like products need product market fit, right? If you build something that no one cares about or no one cares to use, like it's not going to get any usage, right? But if you like, I'll even say this is like, I was on the AI panel earlier, and AI it's getting better and better and better and better, right? So if you tried, let's say a year ago, to build something with AI, chances are you could have gotten it done, right? Chances are, would it have taken you quite a long time? Would you have run into a ton of errors? Yes and yes, right? So now we're seeing these things kind of evolve with the AIs in such a way that like if you have an idea or if you have something you want to build, like PulseChain isn't this magical, outlandish, non-documented sort of like blockchain, right? It's a fork of Ethereum, right? It uses all the same frameworks, all the same Solidity code, all the same everything, right? So with that being said, it's like if Ethereum is one of the top blockchains in terms of probably builders and developers and kind of underlying infrastructure surrounding it, PulseChain, just by kind of default, by being a fork of Ethereum, already can just plug and play into a lot of these different tools and a lot of these different plugins, right? So kind of the point is like, maybe it won't be today, maybe it won't be tomorrow, but I can guarantee you, and even if you are able to put together like the right people and the right minds, like you guys can almost like, we're getting to a point where I think anyone could almost build anything, right? And you don't have to be, you don't have to be a master dev to build something, especially if you just want to use it for yourself, right? And I'll say that's kind of the key point is like, if you just want to use it for yourself, like go talk to ChatGPT, go talk to Grok, ask them, hey, I had this idea. or I've seen this idea happen, or I've seen this get implemented over on Solana. Like, how could I replicate the same sort of thing on PulseChain, right? Because I think another key point is like, maybe we'll touch into this in the next slide, right? But why builders are critical, right? And this is kind of this is just one example of we had like kind of that whole revolution of DeFi, right? Especially in like 2020, 2019, like around that area of like DeFi altcoin season, when we had like kind of Uniswap emerging and everything like that. You had like kind of on-chain trading kind of pick up for the first time pretty much ever in crypto, right? That was a revolution, right? Trustless peer-to-peer, pretty much peer-to-peer trading without any, centralized exchange or third-party intermediaries. So the meme is like, we're in it for the tech, right? And a lot of us, like, we aren't in it for the tech, but it is a byproduct. Like, we're all here. This is we're all interacting with software at the end of the day, right? And you don't have to be here for the tech, but I think the tech is here for you, whether you see it or not, right? And this is one of the points I want to drive home is like, I'm saying I think, but I definitely think there is a lot of research and a lot of kind of evidence to go to show that these builders and these products and these kind of developments and these innovations that got put out onto these new chains hyper accelerated the growth of Ethereum, right? And or of any of these other chains as well. Like, let's do like a quick thought experiment of like, imagine if we had Ethereum, but there was no Uniswap, no dApps, no yield farming, no LP providing, none of that. All you could do is maybe like, I guess send and receive ERCs. I mean, the chain would be great, but it wouldn't be like, there wouldn't be anything about it that competes with like that centralized finance, right? So now that we've seen builders come in, and we saw the same thing happen on PulseChain, right? And they did decentralized lending and borrowing, decentralized liquidity, decentralized trading, all that type of stuff, right? I think these are almost the key things that I think people overlook or underappreciate that actually can help drive major success of the blockchain, right? And I think we even saw this happen a little bit. And like, I don't want to talk about too much about other chains and stuff, but there was that whole like kind of meme coin factory revolution that happened over on Solana. And you had like, you had one or two projects that were able to kind of capitalize on that whole bit finanza that happened over there, right? So if like, kind of the point is like, I think we will likely see the same sort of thing here on PulseChain. And I've said this before, it's like, no one really knows what the narrative is going to be. No one knows what the narrative is going to turn into. No one knows what things are going to be like in the future, right? But kind of the point is like, if people are building the infrastructure now, especially when everything's low, when we have the massive inflows of people, when we have like the narrative come in, when we have all these reasons why, people are going to flow to the right products, right? And I think PulseChain it's pretty much, especially with all the new builders, pretty much kind of setting itself up for a success story. Because kind of the point is like, what doesn't PulseChain have, right? And then also like, I'll cover these because I only have a 15-minute time slot, and I don't want to waste all my time just talking about random stuff. But I will say is like, there's more to like building than I think a lot of people realize, right? Like, even if we're taking a look at like the bridge, right? So being able to have that sort of cross-chain interoperability between, Ethereum and PulseChain. And I think this is also something that Alex from Hedron, the developer over there, is trying to also kind of develop as well for PulseChain, right? Is have this market where whether you have eHex or pHex or EICOS or PI, whatever it is, right? It's all treated as the same. It's all treated as equal. And one of the ways you're able to do that is by building, right? By building a product, by building something that kind of transforms one thing into another, right? So that's kind of the point here is like, I think there's a ton of applications for blockchain, right? There's probably a million applications for blockchain, right? And I think the obvious ones are like, the ones that we've seen so far. But I think there's others. I think there's other ideas and there's other sort of innovations that, as everything kind of moves forward in time and everyone kind of advances, everyone kind of innovates, everyone kind of learns from each other, I think we're going to see this like massive kind of inflow of like builders and projects on PulseChain and stuff. So So yeah, remember guys, it's like without builders, of course the chain would still exist. Of course everything would be the same. Of course you'd still be able to do like a lot of the same things, right? But I think there is a lot to be said about builders and their contributions to blockchains and stuff. Another thing, this will I'll quickly touch on this, and like we touched on it a little bit earlier. But kind of the point of this slide is like PulseChain is not a it's not some weird out of this world framework, or kind of a, how should I say it, blockchain or software that like no one knows how to use, or no one has the infrastructure for, right? So it's a fork of PulseChain. All of the same sort of frameworks, all of the same like documentations, all of the same stuff works for PulseChain as well. So that's
rpc.pulsechain.com.
yeah. So yeah, and then last slide here, we won't even cover this, but yeah, and then this is pretty much the same thing as well as like my experience, PulseChain's EVM advantage. Um, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's like my experience is like it's been a great help, the fact that PulseChain is EVM and is based off of Ethereum, because I think it makes developing like all the stuff is there, right? It's nothing new. So I'll kind of end it off on that. So
Boom. Yeah, I mean, you've been building different products in the community, and all kinds of fun tools, and we downloadable. We work on the downloadable data stuff back then as well, and you just been cranking it out, man. So I appreciate you supporting Pulse Chain ecosystem and just explaining for how they can get into it. What can they do, resources. I mean, even first thing I think of too is pulsechain.com. You go there, it's got a stats developers tab. It gives you all the information on that stuff too. So I'd say that's been the new website change has been a welcome new resource for onboarding people, and especially the devs too. Yeah, you got to pull it up, click the top right devs. You got, what else you need? Boom. If you know how to do smart contracts, you know how to deploy stuff. We got IPFS, we got all the stuff. You got all the information right there to get started.
that's pretty awesome. And this is like maybe this will be the last point I kind of drive home is like we have all of this stuff here on PulseChain. Like I know there's probably a lot of other chains that are similar, like, but I don't know anyone that does it like PulseChain in terms of like everyone's here for everyone, kind of in the sense like we're here for the community, right? Like yeah, plenty of documentation, plenty of resources, plenty of everything. So